On this episode of Off the Clock, Rebecca and Sarah continue part 2 of their discussion about the lawsuit filed against music star Lizzo by some of her dancers.
Welcome to Off the Clock, the webcast of employment attorneys at Miller Johnson, where we discuss what is happening in the HR world and provide practical insight and advice.
Let's turn towards a non-controversial topic, religion.
Okay. Nobody's talking
We're hitting
about
all
that
the
these
big ticket
days.
items here. So another set of allegations is
Okay.
religious, a hostile work environment based on religion.
Oh, interesting.
And the allegations are, I believe it was the dance instructor, I might have the title wrong, but it was a strong believer in Christianity.
Okay.
And would preach her beliefs about her religion
Okay.
to people who did not, sometimes wanted to hear them maybe, but also to plaintiffs who did not. And she would badger people who she believed were non-believers. She would lead or have someone else instruct someone else to lead a group prayer
Okay.
before they went out on stage at the tour events. And when she was told once or asked not to talk to the dancers who didn't want to hear it about her religious beliefs, the allegation is that she said, "No job and no one will stop me from talking about the Lord." The plaintiffs say that the group prayers were not technically compulsory, right?
Right.
But they thought it was clear that they were de facto, right? Like
Their boss was
so it wasn't in
asking
their
them to do
policy that you have to attend the group
Yeah.
prayer, but they thought they would clearly be ostracized and maybe
Sure.
lose their jobs if they did not attend.
Always a blurry line when the boss asks you to do something and says, but don't worry, it's not mandatory, right?
But you're my boss.
Yes. And
right.
you're asking me to do it.
Yes, the power dynamic, right? So let's pause there
Okay.
on those allegations. Again, I'm not repeating everything. But
So that's a harassment
that's the
claim
gist.
as well? Is it essentially a harassment, a religious harassment claim, creating a hostile work environment based on religion? Or was it couched in any sort of decisions about them? Was it a discrimination claim?
Not a discrimination
Okay.
claim, a
Must have
straight up
been just-
workplace harassment
I got it.
claim,
Okay.
not a quid pro quo, if that could exist within a religious sense. But the reason that I thought this claim was interesting was, first of all, I don't think people necessarily realize what all could be a hostile
Yeah,
work
right.
environment claim. We think of sexual harassment,
That's what
that's
I
where
was just
what we
thinking,
jump
right.
to, but the courts have discussed this a little bit, particularly in Michigan, but in other places as well. And while we may argue this on behalf of our clients, we should assume at the front end, at the counseling end, that any protected characteristic, and we know there's a long list there, religion is one of them, any protected characteristic can also be the basis of a harassment claim or a hostile work environment claim.
Yep.
Right? Okay. So that's one little nugget that I thought was interesting, but really probably more interesting, Sarah, is this issue or topic of, can you talk about religion in your workplace?
Right.
Can you talk about your own personal religious beliefs in the workplace? And this is a very sensitive topic for a lot of people. What do you think about that when you get those questions from clients?
Well, the first thing I would say is we need to acknowledge the difference when the boss, I think, is making a point of talking about his or her religion, particularly in such a way to proselytize, right, to others in the workplace, right?
By proselytize, do you mean convince others to
Yes,
believe as they believe?
exactly.
Okay.
Sending a message that I believe this and I think you should too,
Got it.
right? I think that is concerning.
Okay.
That behavior is concerning, and I think it's ripe to get some sort of religious harassment claim, quite honestly. It'll also drive HR folks crazy because it's going to undoubtedly, to your initial point, create conflict, right?
What if it
conflict?
falls short of proselytization? What if it's just sharing,
Right.
right? What if it's just sharing a belief system with others, maybe comes up naturally in conversation. Should we advise clients like we do, frankly, with sexually charged language? Just, right? Let's just stay away from that. That does not belong in the workplace.
Not talk about
Just
religion.
we don't want to.
I got to be honest. I
with
think
it.
that depends on each business, the size of the business, etc. If I'm being a very conservative attorney, I would say you're better off just not talking about religion or politics in the workplace. That's going to make things a lot easier for everyone.
Can we add sex
right?
to that?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Right. Sex, religion, and politics in the
Yes.
workplace. If we stay away from those, your HR department is going to be much happier, and there will be fewer disputes and controversy in your workplace.
Yep.
For now, I have clients, and I know a lot of businesses that are more open to talking about religion in the workplace, quite frankly. So is there ability to have those conversations while being very careful not to cross a line? Yeah, but that's got to be very intentional.
Yeah.
I mean, very intentional.
I agree.
And again, if it's a supervisor who doesn't understand where that line is, like this dance instructor,
Right.
who is essentially telling the people over whom she has power, right, that they should believe what she believes,
Yeah.
that crosses a line that is likely to cause legal concerns.
And it could also cause a problem when it's a supervisor. If that employee at some point loses his or her job,
Yeah, sure.
they could argue it's because so-and-so wanted me to believe X, Y, and Z.
Exactly.
And I didn't. Whereas if that communication had never happened in the first place, you don't have that argument. It's a little, my red flags go down a little bit when it's coworkers
Sure,
discussing
talking
religion
about
with each
their-
other
yes.
because it's an important part of a lot of people's lives, and it's hard to talk about what you did on the weekend and other things, right?
Right.
Without bringing that up, let's be honest. But it's the proselytization that can become an issue. Right?
Particularly from a leader or somebody with power.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Should we talk about bathrooms?
We should. We should talk about bathrooms. We have not
We've not talked about
talked about
bathrooms
bathrooms yet today or in a while.
And I'm just thinking in the history of this podcast,
I feel like we have.
I don't know if I've ever used the phrase pee my pants. And it actually is not funny, of course, when that happens. It's
Not funny
It's
at
actually
all.
quite sad when you read the allegations, which are just that. But the allegation by one of the dancers is that they were forced to dance a very long day. So an 8-hour rehearsal, and then they had to, someone, I don't remember who, was not, purportedly not pleased with the level of dance occurring at the rehearsal, said you're all going to have to re-audition now because we need to do better. So then they were all required to dance 4 more hours. So without
any breaks?
I don't, they're not specific about that.
I
in
mean,
the
I'm
complaint.
concerned about eating, of course, right? Like, what was that? I don't understand. That's a long time to go.
The cardiovascular.
Yes.
And this is, we're kind of 12
Wow.
hours of
Okay.
dancing we're coming up on Ironman level.
Yes.
Athleticism here.
Yes.
Okay. And so she was dancing, allegedly, had to use the restroom, could not stop dancing, or she was concerned that she would not survive the re-audition. So she kept dancing. She relieved herself as she was dancing. During a break that came up after that, she went backstage to change. The only thing available to change into were see-through shorts.
What?
I know, it gets worse. For those that wonder if we rehearsed this ahead of time, here is your answer. We talk about some things ahead of time, but
sounds
I
like a-
save a few Easter eggs
This
for the
feels
show.
like a nightmare I might have had at some point. I'm trying to get dressed, but the only thing I can find are see-through shorts.
The complaint
this poor
itself, I
woman.
read a lot of boring things for work. This was not one of those things. Okay.
So anyway,
it was humiliating.
So
it
as
was
a
this
result,
and it
she
was
had
that.
to then go back out with her see-through
Yes.
shorts. She had 2 choices.
I will say this to your earlier practical point. There are lots of salacious and embarrassing
Yes.
allegations here that don't seem to go to a particular legal cause
Right.
of action.
Okay.
So if you repeat the story, which is really sad. It's funny at first, and then it's sad when you think about if
Yes.
that actually happened to you. At work, you were not allowed to take a break, right? Let's
go to
take
the
it out of the dance situation. You were, think about wherever you work, and your boss won't let you take a break, and you are so uncomfortable, and it comes to that. Would there be a legal cause of
Yes.
action
Well, I
if
know
someone
the
came to
answer to
us
this.
with that? Yes.
Say OSHA. OSHA's taken
Yep.
a position that a refusal to allow bathroom breaks is a safety concern, right?
Yes.
Because it relates to that employee's health.
Yep. Can I just pause for a moment, tell you what question about bathroom breaks has come up in my practice over and over again? It's not that general concept.
No, but it's
It's, can we do anything because we have an employee who is taking an excessive amount of bathroom breaks? And that's really,
Right.
everyone I'm sure listening is nodding their head because they have actually had a supervisor ask them about that.
Right.
And I think there are really two issues there. One is it's the situation where the supervisor doesn't think the person is actually taking bathroom breaks, right? There's not a sincere belief there that the person actually has to go to the bathroom that often. It's they're on their phone, they're smoking, they're doing other things. In that case, you can absolutely, it's a mini investigation and you're not going to follow someone into the bathroom,
Right.
but it would not be unusual to call the employee into the office and say, hey, we noticed an excessive amount of breaks. Is it to use the bathroom? You know what I mean? Kind of try to nail them down on that and work through it. If it's actually because the person does in fact need to use the restroom more than the supervisor feels is reasonable compared to the supervisor's own life experiences,
Right.
It may be a health-related issue, right? There are health-related issues, disabilities under the ADA. And so that now might be a reasonable accommodation to take more frequent bathroom breaks.
Little teaser maybe for one of our upcoming episodes. Pregnancy would be an example of a situation in which an employee might need an accommodation to use the bathroom more frequently than
Yeah.
others. So
Yes. Okay, stay tuned.
stay
right?
tuned.
Folks
That's
should
exactly
stay tuned
right.
for that.
Yep.
Let's hit the next highlight, which I think is an interesting ADA issue because it hits on mental health, and we know that's a big topic right now in a lot of workplaces. So one of the plaintiffs claims she was called in to meet with Lizzo personally, as well as another member of C-suite, where she was asked, the dancer was asked why she seemed less bubbly recently.
Okay.
I don't, these are
Quote unquote,
I think
less
that actually is a
bubbly.
quote from the
Okay.
complaint, but don't quote me on that because I'm probably wrong. Okay, so why she appeared less bubbly? In other words, they were questioning her performance and why it wasn't up to par lately compared to what they were used to.
Okay.
She had difficulty answering the question, felt uncomfortable answering the questions, she alleges, and because they kept asking, she eventually told them that it was because she is struggling with anxiety, depression, and an eating disorder. Lizzo offered to give her a leave of absence, to give her some time to work through those issues. Plaintiff turned down that offer, but then it also in the complaint alleges that was insulting and evidence of disability animus against her disabilities because Lizzo didn't think someone with these issues could work and do a good job while having those health issues. Are you with me? Isn't that interesting?
So by offering the leave of absence, this dancer was offended by the offer of the leave of absence.
Correct.
So Lizzo, Lizzo knows about the reasonable interactive process, I guess. Under
She's
the
been
ADA.
listening.
I wouldn't have guessed. She must be a listener.
We should have been
to
nicer
us.
during this whole thing.
Right. I think the takeaway there is, first of all, I think that claim is not going to survive. Let me just
And to
say
be fair,
that
the claim is not under the ADA, it's under California
It's
law,
under
which we're
California
not
law.
commenting
Right.
on.
I
But
mean,
under
there-
the ADA,
yes.
what do you think about that
I
claim?
think the claim is essentially, how dare you offer an accommodation that I personally find offensive? You should have offered something else first. I don't think there's a lot there.
Okay.
From a legal standpoint.
So employers should not be nervous about offering a leave of absence and when appropriate.
Well, I will say this. Under the ADA, leave is supposed to be the last option.
Okay?
In other words, employers are supposed to make whatever effort they can to help somebody remain on the job if they can first. And if that's not possible, then leave would be the last option for a reasonable accommodation. Is it unlawful to say it the wrong way or have the wrong conversation? I don't think so. But a takeaway from our listeners is nonetheless the best practice is to say, is there anything we can do to help you do your job first?
Our favorite question.
Right?
Yes.
And if not, then go to the leave of absence.
Right.
that make sense?
Always let the employee lead that conversation about what they may need, about what might help. After all, they are the experts, right?
That's
of their
exactly
own
right.
health.
And don't go to leave until the employee either says, I need time off work, or says, I can't do my job right now and there's nothing you can do to help me.
The way I laid out the facts, which again may not be the truth of what actually happened, but the way I told the story to you a few minutes ago, do you think that was an unlawful request for disability-related information
Well,
under the
I
ADA?
don't know. I would really need to dig into the conversation because it's hard to know whether they realized they were soliciting medical information or not.
Yeah.
Right? Being less bubbly could be caused by all sorts of things in someone's life, not necessarily mental health issues, right? It could be caused by financial struggles. It could be caused by a breakup with a boyfriend. It could be and so to say, is that a medical inquiry to ask somebody why they're quote unquote less bubbly?
Yeah.
I don't think it gets there.
Why their performance, let's put it in a non-dancing context, why their performance is struggling.
Yeah, that's
We've noticed
exactly
a decline. Let's put it in more of a corporate speaky way. We've noticed your performance has been declining over the past
What's
few
going
months.
on?
You used to be here, now you're there. Help us understand.
Yeah, that is not a medical inquiry under the
Even if the
ADA.
person then responds, well, I've been suffering from
Yes.
depression, anxiety, et cetera, or a heart condition, whatever the medical condition is, because those kinds of questions are not likely, right, to
Correct.
result in the person disclosing a protected health condition.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Right. Oh,
So
lots
I
of
think,
good stuff
I think
here.
that's enough. I think that's enough for everyone today. The complaint is available. You can Google for it, which is how I
Right.
found it. This was not any intense legal skill, right, or any sort of password protected site that you can pull it off from. Remember, again, in lawsuits, these are just allegations. It's not unusual at all for allegations to be proven false.
Well, thank you, Lizzo, for teaching us all sorts of good lessons today.
Yes, the truth. The truth hurts, Sarah.
All right. All right.
See ya.
See ya.